Well, hello.
Well, hello there, Brad.
It's been a whole week since the last time that we talked about stuff.
It has been a little while, hasn't it? 7 days.
Yes, and Nick is already in the chat congratulating us on the fact that we've been doing this for 2 months.
I am blown away. The 2 months of the two of us talking about stuff.
It is a lot of stuff.
It is a lot of stuff.
There's going to be so much more stuff. There's always more stuff in this ever-expanding universe. There's always literally more stuff, right?
Well, that's the best thing about it, Brad, is the more things we start talking about, we realize that there's more stuff for us to discuss.
Exactly.
Right? It's very exciting.
Yeah. It's been interesting times. I wouldn't say that I'm worried, but I did tease that I would be asking you the question.
The question.
And it may end this show and possibly our friendship.
Brad, you can...
Do you want to just get that out of the way, or do you want to wait and save that just in case?
I think we can wait just a little bit, Brad. We can warm up the audience. We can warm me up because trust me, when I saw that, I was like,
I mean, it could be like a 5-minute show if it does ruin our friendship. So maybe we should keep it a little bit for the end. Let's see my mic here.
Brad, I feel like it's going to take a lot for you to try and throw me off, but we'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have something to start with, or do you want me to start?
I do. I think I do have something to start with. And Brad, I'm this is there's going to be a couple of theme related questions here, but we're not talking about a theme.
Okay.
I want to ask you a quick question, Brad.
Sure.
Is cereal soup or stew?
Depend on the cereal, probably.
Oh, okay. Depends on the cereal. Interesting, Brad. What does that mean?
Well, some cereal will really soak up the milk and thicken up, right? So then you're talking more like a stew
or a chowder at that point.
Or a chowder, sure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then some, it's just soup, I guess, the whole time, because it doesn't really thicken or sort of transform into a goo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm strongly in the cereal as a soup camp.
Okay, now that implies you need to put milk in your cereal, though.
I suppose a bowl of cereal,
with
milk would be soup. You could just eat it dry, and it wouldn't necessarily be soup, I guess.
Brad, here is something about me you might not know. I actually don't really enjoy cereal with milk because I don't like the sort of stew-like quality. I like a bowl, and here's the thing: people freak out when they hear this. I put a bowl of cereal in front of me with a spoon, and I eat it without any milk in it. And I promise you, Brad, I'm not a psychopath, but people tend to think that I am.
Okay, all right, not a psychopath. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did do the test, so I guess I'll trust you. But yeah, I'm on board with that. Where do you fall on the hot dogs or a sandwich scale?
Brad, you took the question away from me.
When you're talking about cereal being soup, I gotta go there.
Well, Brad, then let's get into it. Is a hot dog a sandwich, Brad?
I would say that it is. Yeah, an open-faced sandwich.
It absolutely is a sandwich. How is it not a sandwich?
Almost everything is a sandwich on some
level. Of course, right?
Or pie, I guess, depending on the structure.
Exactly.
You could argue that it might be a pie in some.
Yeah, because you could say like an empanada, a pierogi. Plenty of those things are not sandwiches; they are simply mobile pies, right?
Sure.
Yes.
It's like it's a ham pie. Yeah.
It's a ham pie. Oh, I love a good ham pie.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, Brad, this is when you say things like, "Oh, we're going to break our friendship," and you and I are instantly on the same page on the hot dog as a sandwich.
It's still a risk. I'm telling you, it's a risky one, but we'll get there.
Yes. Well, all right, Brad. So let's talk about why a hot dog is a sandwich, right? Because some people don't think it is. Some people think it's its own sort of situation. What makes a hot dog a sandwich?
Well, it's bread on two sides of meat and potentially other condiments and things. I mean, it's a sandwich. It can be semi-open faced,
right?
A taco is the same sort of deal. It's just a sandwich with carbs on 3 sides.
Absolutely. So then let's take that one further. Is pizza an open-faced sandwich?
Sure.
Yeah, right? It's a big open-faced sandwich.
And absolutely, BJ, a burger is a sandwich.
How is a burger not
just a round sandwich? That's the shape of the bread doesn't define the sandwich. It's definitely a sandwich, right?
Because that would assume that a patty melt is not a sandwich. Because is it the burger that makes it? Is it the hamburger meat that makes it not a sandwich in that situation?
I don't know. It's
all
a sandwich to me. It's craziness.
It's all a sandwich. Everything's a sandwich up and down.
Everything is a sandwich or a pie. And really, a pie is like just a fancy sandwich.
It's a very fancy sandwich, right? It's a fruit sandwich or a sugar sandwich.
I mean, you could have a dessert pizza. It doesn't mean that it's not a pizza. Like it's weird. Like you could have strange toppings that people might not necessarily refer to as a sandwich, but like functionally, it's still a sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Carbs and meat. It seems like that's what most people are saying.
Nick is saying crust doesn't count as bread to Nick apparently, but I would say carbs, other stuff, carbs. That's a sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because again, you could look at the same thing. You take a pizza, you flip it over, it's a calzone. Well, it is what it is.
Sure. Calzone is a pretty large hand pie.
It's a big hand pie, right? That's what it's a hand pie.
A big lopsided hand pie. But still, again, the shape doesn't necessarily define it, right? So it can be lopsided.
Sure.
Moon shaped or whatever instead of round, it'd still be a hand pie.
So, Brad, if we were gonna take if we're gonna make like the elements of food, we would say one of the elements of food is sandwich. One of the elements of food is pie.
Sure.
What is the other? What is the other element then? Is it like bowls? Like what? Like, is a salad a dry soup, right? Like, we have to start thinking about this way. Like, what is this? Like, we have to think about it like the elements, right? Like, we have fire, we got water, we got earth, we got air. What is the other elements of food that we can start to categorize together?
Oh, a salad is almost like a deconstructed sandwich, right? You have all the elements of a sandwich, but they're mixed in a bowl instead of standalone. If you had a salad in a bread bowl, does that make it a sandwich?
Oh my gosh. If you take a salad in a bread bowl.
Because you have all the elements of a sandwich generally in a salad. I mean, it depends on the kind of salad, I guess, maybe. But usually you would have enough variety that you could make a sandwich if you would just put it in some bread. But that if you can't eat the bowl generally, but if you could eat the bowl.
You could eat the bowl, right?
Is it a sandwich?
Well, here's the thing, though, Brad, is if you put it in a bowl, does that make it a pie, right? That's the problem. Is it because the bowl has a top, and at that point, it's a bit more in the pie category.
Sure. And not all pies have, like, crust on top.
No, that's a good point.
So you could refer to it as a pie regardless of having a top or not.
I am loving how into the chat is. I was like, this is a throwaway question. We'll throw this in the beginning.
Nick has created a separate category. He's combined soup and sandwiches into, it can be a sandwich anyway.
Absolutely. I think
if the container is edible carbs,
yes,
it's a sandwich, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or a pie. I don't know. What would be the separation between a sandwich and a pie? What is a sandwich but not a pie? Or vice versa?
A burrito. I would like, that's the tough thing. Like when you think about wraps or falafel that way, that's where we start to get into the in between, the sort of plasma of the elements that way. Of a burrito is not a sandwich, but a burrito is not a pie. But it has elements of both of them. But it is neither of them at the same time, right?
Sure.
So
I love how into it the chat is.
the chat is
they're
so
having a good time with it.
yes.
Absolutely, it is.
Oh yeah, you can deconstruct that. Absolutely, BJ. We can deconstruct any meal and say that it is one of the two things, right?
I think so. I mean, it's very similar elements. So if you're going to deconstruct it, it's all the same stuff.
So, I mean, if we're going to go that far, then a steak is a deconstructed hamburger, right? We have a piece of steak.
Sure.
We grind it up. We put a little extra fat in there. We stick it together in a patty. We put it on a grill or on a range, and we cook it, right? If we deconstruct that hamburger, it's just a steak, right? It's a stretch. It's a stretch.
I like it. I'm on board for this.
Okay. Wow.
A hot pocket is, I mean, it's a pie, right?
Hot pocket's pie.
Yeah.
It's a pie.
It could, I guess, be a sandwich too, but since it's closed, I would more consider it a pie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the interesting thing, Brad, is okay, so here we go. Let's go one step further. Can you take pie and make it a sandwich, or take a sandwich and make it a pie? Right? So if I take a Philly cheesesteak sandwich and I wrap it in a pizza, does that make it a pie? Or if I take an apple pie and then I put it between two other apple pies and eat it like this, does that make it a pizza? Does that make it a sandwich?
Kind of,
right? Like,
even just like taking a sandwich and putting it in one of those presses so it seals the edge.
The panini,
like that's a pie now, right?
It's still a pie, right? Yeah, it's a flat, heated pie.
Yeah. Everything is pie.
Everything is pie. Yes.
Just about everything is pie.
Yes. Oh, Brad, this is wonderful. I honestly thought this was going to be a 2-second. I was like, we'll get right through this.
Everything is pie or soup.
Wow.
There's probably other categories, but whatever.
Yes.
Almost everything is a pie. Let's see. Here's just a nice, easy, just because I'm curious. What was the last gift you gave somebody?
Oh, I think the last physical gift that I gave someone was probably to our dear friend Mitra. I gave her a Boba Fett bathrobe.
Nice.
Which was something that I assumed that she had, being such the illustrious Star Wars fans that she is. And I felt like I was being really, really subtle about it, because we were talking about filming some TikToks at the time, and I'd seen it on Amazon, and I said, I bet she has one. And then I said to her, hey, Mitra, like, I'm gonna come out on my bathroom. Like, do you have like a Boba Fett bathroom? She's like, no, why would I have a Boba Fett bathrobe? And I was like, boom, click.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? And Mitra, being the extremely intuitive and smart woman that she is, instantly knew, oh, yes, I see what Kellen did there. So
nice.
Yes. What about you, Brian? What's the last gift that you gave to someone?
The last gift I gave to someone would be to my son. I gave him a lightsaber.
Yes, I want to hear about the lightsaber.
He has been sort of poking at sword fighting a little bit with like a little Breath of the Wild Link Master Sword.
Yeah.
And so we've been sort of practicing a little bit, because I do have some experience with sword fighting, not a ton, and it was a long time ago, but enough to like pass on some tips to a 5-year-old.
Let's just put the pause button there. What do you mean you have some experience sword fighting a long time ago, Brad? Are you Highlander? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am Highlander. It's been a while. But no, I used to do a little bit of fencing, and I've done some Aikido. So like part of that is disarming people, and then you got to figure out what to do with the thing that you just disarmed, right? So there's like some basic stuff, but never like super into sword fighting. But I did do a little bit of fencing and things.
Very cool. I did a little bit of sword fighting just with doing like stage combat. Like I was one of those things where one summer I did some training with stage combat and started teaching classes, and I was like, gosh, this is so fun. And then you just like, it's a good thing as an actor to say like, oh, I know how to do sword fighting with a broadsword. I know how to do sword fighting, with a rapier. And you start doing shows and they're like, oh, this guy knows how to do sword fighting. Great, let's put him in the show. Right. It's fantastic. It's a good time. But your son and you are not battling yet, or you're going to be doing that soon?
I have been slowly trying to train him up a little bit to battle, but we needed an even weapon. So I got him a lightsaber of his size. It's actually got a shorter blade and everything. And I got myself one, and I got another one for my wife so that our son could fight us both, because it has to be even and we have to all have the same kind of thing, or it's, he's 5. So everything is very picky. We all had to have one. So we now each have our own customized lightsaber.
Now, Brad, how did you find the Kyber crystal for the lightsaber? Did you have to go on a spirit journey? What was that about? Are you worried about your son?
It's 2021, man. You can order anything on the internet. I did do some searching around to find ones that like wouldn't break the instant that a 5-year-old got his hands on it. So I got some extremely combat ready that you can smash against anything and they will not break.
That's great. And does it look good though? That's the thing, is like, does the hilt look good? Does it?
It does. Yeah, I have one sitting
here.
Oh,
folks, this is exciting.
If I can reach it.
We got the box right behind him.
So this is one of them. I've sort of set it up with a fairly basic handle. All of these parts are like interchangeable.
And
then you just hit the button and it lights up. I don't know how well that color is going to show, but this one is set to green, and it actually has like sounds when you wave it in different directions and stuff. And when you hit it on things, it flashes and does sounds and things.
That is very, very cool, Brad. That is very
Those are all the silly sound effects. And you can set it to all kinds of different colors. So it's a good time. So we're starting that journey.
Green.
That one is set to green. I think one of them right now is set to orange, and the other in his that he chose red as his color, because he's just that kind of kid apparently.
Hey,
Mitra would be happy with them.
Mitra would be very, very happy. Well, there can be only 2. That's the thing, right? That's the rule of Sith. That's what happened after the Sith War, as we all are very familiar.
It does a couple things. You can like pretend to deflect blaster bolts and things with one of the buttons and stuff. It's a little bit fancy, but the main selling factor for me was the basically unbreakable, because that needed to be the case. To hand one to the 5-year-old.
Yes. Well, Brad, I'm extremely, extremely envious of you having that. I want to cross that line in terms of my own Star Wars nerddom. I have so much Star Wars stuff in my house, and I'm just afraid that if I start buying lightsabers, I will not be able to stop with the rest of that stuff, because I see like there's some really amazing Polish and Ukrainian like 3D printers who make like really, really excellent helmets and other stuff like that. And though I'm not a cosplayer naturally, just the idea of being able to say, I'm just going to go and sit on my porch with my, Stormtrooper helmet and be fine. I'll be fine.
Yeah, it's a good time, but I can already tell it's going to be hard not to just constantly buy parts for them.
Yeah.
Since all the parts are interchangeable, they of course have a website that here's dozens of options for things that you can just decide to change if you want. Give us a pile more money.
Well, do you feel better that you're buying from an independent company versus the Disney Corporation? Like, does that make you feel better than doing that?
It does make me feel a little bit better, yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's good then.
But it's a fun time. It'll be interesting to see how into it he gets. But either way, I have a bunch of lightsabers now, so that's fun.
You have 3 lightsabers. More lightsabers than you had last year, Brad, which is an improvement.
That's true.
All right, Brad, you got a question for me?
Oh, that was my question.
Oh, that was your question.
Your turn.
My turn.
I mean, I got lots of questions.
There you go. Brad, What is something everyone looks stupid doing? No matter what.
Playing VR.
Playing VR. There are some people who look like the people who play Beat Saber professionally, who like know all of that stuff. Like,
okay, sure. There's a handful of people that can make it work, I guess. But generally speaking, you've got a lot of awkward waving around and making noise and stuff. It's pretty fun to watch. But let's see. Other than VR,
it's a tough one, right? Like,
it is a tough one. Learning to break dance. How about that? Not break dancing, not like once they know what they're doing, but learning to break dance. Day one, breakdancing school.
Breakdancing,
hilarious.
Yes. I think you're right, Brad. I think day one of breakdancing school probably is one of the more awkward things. Yes. Golly. The chat is telling me that I need to start cosplaying as Doctor Strange, and I'm going to be peer pressured by our friend Hannah quite a bit. So
yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could try it. The thing about Strange is he's got the goatee, and I could do the goatee. I'd be fine, but then I'm a man with a goatee, and things start to change when men have goatees, right? They start changing their life. I mean, like you, Brad, you are a man with a goatee, and you're a man about town. You're a raconteur, right? You a ne'er-do-well in Canada, right?
Sure, let's go with yes.
I think so, Brad. I think you walk around the town that you live in. You've got a rapier on your side. You've got a big feather in your hat, and everyone knows that Brad is not a man to be messed with. Yet, when the song comes on, Brad will be the first one to dance. That's what I would say.
See, if I could carry a rapier around town, I probably would. That would be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it's not particularly legal around here just to like wander around with a large sword, which is a shame.
It's a real shame. It's an absolute shame. I would be more comfortable if Chicago has a conceal and carry sidearm law, so you can just be walking around with sidearm, and it's absolutely terrifying. I hate it so much.
Sure.
I would love it if people could just walk around with swords. I would be like, nope, that's fine. Because if you have a sword, you have to know how to use that sword, right?
Yeah, you can in Texas. I know that, and probably some other states, but it was sometime, I think it was last year sometime, or maybe the year before, where they finally made just openly carrying swords legal in Texas. I'm not sure how it wasn't before then, but it's fairly recent. But that would be nice. Also,
Brad, you are now being pimped into being Vision. So it's Doctor Strange and Vision. That's what this relationship is.
That's going to take a little bit of makeup, but I think we could probably work most of that out. I could play like the WandaVision version, get an old like 50s outfit.
Oh, I like that. I think if you were the Silver Age Vision, that would look very, very good, Brad.
Yeah. That would be fun.
That would be fun. Okay. All right. I can give you another quick one if you'd like.
Sure. Hit me with another quick one.
Okay. Brad, what's the best insult?
The best?
What's the best insult? Or at least what's your favorite way to insult someone?
I guess I don't like insult a lot of people.
I know.
If I'm annoyed with someone, I'll just tell them to fuck off. I don't really insult them.
Okay.
Maybe the best one that I've heard sort of recently is like, I hope you have the day you deserve.
Ooh, that feels like Jean-Luc Picard right there, right? That is.
It's like, instead of passive aggressive, it's just sort of aggressive. But might be good if you're like being nice, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird.
That feels very British, right?
It does feel pretty British.
House of Commons. The right and honorable gentleman, I hope he has the day he deserves, you know? I struggle with insults because I think it's really fun to think about very unique insults, but you also have to understand that like so much of the way we insult people is sort of insulting and demeaning people based on either their sexual orientation or something about their body. and I've been really thought about this for some time, and I feel like the best thing you can do is compare someone to garbage, right? That is the easiest way to truly insult someone and not offend someone in the same way, right?
Sure.
That's it. This is you're Canadian. This is like, I think you're correct there.
I mean, it's fine. I don't know. I don't generally spend energy trying to be creative when I'm annoyed with someone.
Oh,
I just move
Brad.
on, or I tell them to fuck off and punch them, depending on, the needs of the situation.
Brad, have you ever punched someone?
Oh, sure.
Brad.
Not like out of the blue or anything, but
Can you
yeah,
tell
I've
us?
been in several fights way back in school and stuff.
Oh, Brad.
I was picked on quite notoriously for quite a while until I learned to defend myself, and then it became very embarrassing to fight with me and then lose against the kid with the disability. So bullies tended to leave me alone after that.
Brad, can you paint us a picture of a moment where the bully was trying to dominate on you, and you were able to do something to turn the tables? Can you paint that picture for us?
Well, probably the first fight that I got into a couple months after starting Taekwondo, I guess, before I even got into Aikido, they just went to shove me, and instead of falling, I just grabbed onto them and pushed back, and just kind of flew over me and landed on his back, and we were both just kind of lying on the ground. We were kids. We didn't know how to really deal with that. But then he got up and scurried away, and I got up a minute later because I was fully winded, having fallen on my back very improperly. But it worked out technically.
Excellent, Brad. Excellent. That's good, Brad. That's very, very good. I was in the last fight I was in. I was touring around with my band. A buddy who was in the band with us, my good friend Tristan, was a big Los Angeles Lakers fan. And he, again, denim, long hair, scraggly, looking real punk, real rock. And he has this really nice Lakers hat on because he loves the Lakers. And some dipshit punk kid threw a beer at him and got beer all over his hat. People started pushing. People started fighting. I'm trying to kind of get my way through things. My dad was a police officer when I was a kid, so I know how to put people in sort of a handhold to try not to fight. Someone punches me in the side of the head, and my glasses fall off. And I say, "My glasses!" Just like that. And everybody stops. And everyone starts laughing. Pick up the glasses. We all start hugging. We all start drinking, and that's the rest of the night.
So it's always better when you could just end with just drinking.
Let's just end with drinking, right? Why do we need to fight? Let's just all hug and drink and be merry, right?
That's much better than many of the alternatives.
Fucking man, just the worst, right?
They are the worst. Kellen.
Yes, Brad.
Who's your favorite superhero? Since we were talking about.
Oh boy, Brad. Who is my favorite superhero? Can I give you two? Can I give you two?
I mean, if you want to cheat the audience out of a real answer, Kellen, then sure, you can give me two.
Okay. My favorite superhero. Oh, it's so tough. It is
tough.
It is tough. My favorite superhero is it's so difficult, Brad. This is not fair. Okay.
So they can't. You threatened to break me with some of your questions tonight. So okay. Sorry, that favorite superhero question is really tough on you.
My favorite superhero is probably Wally West as the Flash. I love the Flash as a character. I think he is fun. I think it's a really interesting character. The costume design is fantastic. The design of the powers is really wonderful. The idea that he has to live in this world where everything moves really slow and how that just changes him as a character. I think it's really, really great. The fact that he's also not the first Flash, right? The fact that he is the second Flash, and he has to live in Barry Allen's sort of shadow and has to kind of change the way he wants to be compared to the way that Barry was, who was very straight-laced and, well, this is how it is that way. I think it's great. I think it's also super tragic that Wally has sort of these sort of anti-heroes in his life who are constantly trying to like make him a better hero by hurting the people in his life, right? Like Reverse Flash is so interesting to me of like, he's like, no, I'm obsessed with you. I love you. The reason I'm going to kill your wife and your kids is not to hurt you, is to make you a better hero. Like, I just think that's absolutely amazing. But I like that because I think you take a character like Batman or Superman, and their tragedy is so it's the origin of them, versus Wally is already a hero and this tragic event happens to him and then he has to constantly deal with it. And I just think that's great. So
Anna is trying to blow up my ego right now. And I don't know if anybody needs an egotistical Brad. So that's a scary thing. I'll tell you mine. And I can tell you the exact moment that he became my favorite superhero, actually, would be Iron Man.
Oh, okay.
Sort of stereotypical whatever. He's super popular, blah, blah, blah.
But he wasn't popular before. That's the thing. He was not a popular character before.
True. But the moment that I knew that he was my favorite was actually during the Avengers movie, the first one.
Okay.
When he first gets on to the carrier thing, and he's standing, on there looking at all the monitors, and he goes like this, like, why are all those monitors over there? Fury can't see. Like, what's up with that? It's very interesting. And I realized that his superpower is user interface design. He's just really amazing at user interface design. That's his whole thing. Yeah, sure, he's super rich and smart and whatever. He manufactures things because he built it. AI, whatever, but his real superpower is understanding how people use things.
Yes,
which is how he builds his suits to be so intuitive. Anyone can just jump in and use it, even if they don't understand. And he can build equipment for anyone to improve basically any situation for any other hero because he fully understands the concept of user interface design, to a supernatural power. And that was hilarious to me as a realization, and he just became my favorite.
I love that, Brad. I absolutely love that. Do you have a second favorite hero? Is there someone else that sort of speaks to you that way?
You know what? I do.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a weird one.
Let's hear it.
Darkwing Duck.
When there's trouble, you call DW.
Exactly. And he has so many nemesis. Every time a new bad guy comes, he's got to figure out a new way to say multiple nemesises.
Yeah.
It's just so good because he's Batman, except he's like Mr. Bean at the same time somehow.
Absolutely. It's a little Dick Tracy, a little The Shadow, a little Batman, but all very silly, very over the head. Yes. Do you prefer the DC heroes versus the Marvel heroes?
Generally Marvel.
Yeah.
There's some exceptions. I'm a fan of the Flash and
Flash is great.
There's definitely exceptions, but I think for the most part Marvel.
Yeah, it's fun for me because it's like the part that I struggle with is I own every Daredevil comic. Daredevil I just absolutely love, but I don't think he's my favorite. I just think he's a really interesting character to like. Here's this dude who's a lawyer, who's like just like you and I, recovering Catholic, an alcoholic, who just is struggling. And what does he do? How does he exercise his demons? He goes out at night and beats the fuck out of people. And there is something really interesting about that.
That's a good one too. That's a good one too.
Nick is on fire tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, Nick's right. Marvel heroes and DC villains. DC villains are the best, and that's another reason why I like the Flash. Like the Flash's rogues gallery is better than anybody else's. Right? The fact that the Flash has all of these B-level heroes that he deals with Love the Joker, love Brainiac, love the rest of these. The Flash's villains are the best. They're absolutely the best.
Sure. I'm on board with that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Do you want another quick one, or you got one for me?
I think I got one for you.
All right.
Brett, I don't know. I think I know your answer to this. I think you're going to answer this pretty quickly. I don't know if I have an answer to this. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
And I would love to see anybody else in the chat. People in the chat are going to be offended by this question. Okay. So this is my warning. Okay. Which is better, coffee or sex?
I have to pick one.
Yes.
Gonna have to go with sex on that.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought, Brad. That's what I thought.
I've got a couple of reasons for that, but the main one is my main source of caffeine is not coffee, so I'm safe.
Say, you drink spirits, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah. I mean, I will drink coffee, but it's definitely not my primary source of caffeine. If it was caffeine versus sex, I can live without sex for quite a while, I think. Without caffeine, I would not function properly as a human, so I would have to pick caffeine. But coffee is whatever I can do.
But okay, Brad, for the sake of the conversation, though, if you couldn't have Soylent to get your caffeine, the only way you could get caffeine was from coffee.
I would go with the coffee then. Yeah, right? Caffeine is life in a very literal sense in my brain. I would not function.
It is such a impossible question. It is such a question that feels like, okay, yeah, I could deal with just one of them, and then then your brain starts doing the math, and you say, nope, nope.
I could survive with just one of them. I couldn't live.
You couldn't live. You wouldn't want. It wouldn't be living. It wouldn't be living, Brad.
Would not be a life worth living.
I mean, what is the point? What is the point of having sex if you're not going to have coffee the next day? What's the point of having coffee if you're not going to have sex later?
Sure. I don't know. There's no point. I would just die. All right, let's see here, Kellen. What do we got?
Brad, we're about 30 minutes in. Do you want to drop this big question? Do you want to see, or we're gonna wait? We're gonna wait.
No, okay. Let's save it for last, just in case this is the final episode.
Yes.
We don't want to cut it too short.
Yes.
But how about this? What character in a book or a movie or anything like that is amazing in their story, but would just be a pain in the ass to deal with if you actually had to hang out with them for more than a few minutes?
The first one that comes to mind is Paul Atreides. I feel like Paul Atreides from Dune would be a total bummer to hang out with. Here's this young kid. He's a little prince. He's never had any problems in his life. He and his dad and his weird Jedi mom are going to Arrakis, and he can see the future. Like, there's elements of Hamlet. There's elements of like any sort of character that way. But like in the book, he's so good. In the book, he's just so good. But I feel like if I was like hanging out with him, like it was like, hey man, do you want to like, we're having like people over for like, burgers and brats and beers. Do you want to come over? He would be miserable.
Oh, that would be rough. Yeah,
it would be rough because all he would be is like, fear is the mind killer. He would just be the worst. The absolute worst.
Last time we were talking about like giving everybody mushrooms. There's a guy who needs some mushrooms. Man.
Absolutely, he needs. Well, I mean, that's going to Arrakis is to take the spice, right? He needs the spice melange, Sure.
I would probably have to go with like Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah,
or pretty much any of the characters based on Sherlock Holmes, like House and all of that. Just great characters. Love the stories. I'm a super fan of basically anything Sherlock Holmes related. But if I had to hang out with him for more than like 20 minutes, I would probably start pulling my hair out because it would be really aggravating about everything.
Well, I mean, it's one of those situations too. It's like Holmes is such an interesting sort of character where it's like he is in his lane. He is the best when he's in his lane, and that's what's so good about the Benedict Cumberbatch show where it's like they take him out of his element so many times where you get to see him not functioning well. Yeah. And then you get to see him, all right, now he finds his way to wiggle in and he's good that way, right? Holmes is such a weird, it's just such a specific sort of thing. And the new iterations of Holmes every, 10, 15 years, young Sherlock Holmes is so boring. Nix is interesting. Nix is Doctor Who. I actually think Doctor Who would be really interesting to hang out with because I feel like Doctor Who is so fascinated with humans. If you were like, hey, let's have a barbecue, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this would be great.
Right. They'd just be like super enthusiastic about every
I can't believe it.
minute detail of mundane existence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, doesn't he at one point get like a part-time job as a cashier or something?
I think so. I think a few
seasons ago. I can't remember what the job was, but it was like some mundane thing while he was just hanging out.
Yeah.
It was all very silly.
I'm trying to think of some others. This is silly. This is the second one I thought was like Winnie the Pooh, right? Winnie the Pooh would be a really weird.
Sure. Just a guy that refuses to wear pants.
No pants. This strange bear that's walking around who's like oddly obsessed with some things. Just kind of walking and waddling and like, yeah, Pooh would be an interesting character to hang out with.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
That'd be a weird one.
Would be a weird one. Brad, here's another one for you.
Okay.
And this is just for you in Canada. This is a Canadian one. Okay.
Oh boy.
If all of the provinces in Canada were represented by food, what food would be represented by each? Right. Again, in the U.S., there's many states. That's why we can do this in Canada because there's a lot less. So,
sadly, there's not a ton of like individual Canadian food like to represent each place. There's not like it's extremely sort of immigrant focused. Like, no, it's all over the place. Other than poutine, I guess, but like it's sort of generic.
Mm-hmm. So, but what if it was a situation though where it's like, again, my main experience with Canada, and I'm sorry that I've never been to your province, is dealing with Montreal and dealing with BC. Right? BC, I think fish, I think sushi, I think there's so much great Asian food in BC. When I think Montreal, I think obviously poutine. But there's also really, really excellent like Chinese food in Montreal. There's really excellent food in Montreal.
The Chinatown in Montreal is
Chinatown in Montreal is fantastic.
Half the time you need someone that speaks the language because they will not speak English or French.
Absolutely, yes.
But it is very tasty. And like out east, I get a lot of fish and like fish and chips and stuff. Very Scottish focused in Nova Scotia and PEI and all that. But yeah, a lot of places in the middle, just a lot of cheese. Like it's sort of like Wisconsin, a lot of cheese-focused things, stuff like that. But there's not like a specific dish or type of food that I would say like, oh, that's Alberta food. Like,
there it is. Saskatchewan is, the hamburger salad.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? Like pierogies maybe for Alberta. That would be something. There's a lot of pierogies. I don't know if it's still the biggest, but one of the towns in Alberta has the world's biggest pierogi when I was a kid, at least.
Mm-hmm. Brad, is there like is there a drink that would be represented for each province that way? Could you say that like, in Alberta, they take their coffee this way or, I
mean, maybe, but not that I would know because I am barely connected to humanity. So I don't know, Kellen. I'm sorry. I failed this question because I am so disconnected from reality and from humanity.
I kind of understood that. But it's also, I think that it shows such a Canadian sort of thing, because if you said that in America, you'd be like, all right, well, New York is the everything bagel and Florida is this and Georgia's this. Like it's the United States has such, we need this thing to be like, well, this is where I'm from and this is the thing we make here. This is the food that we do, right? Like it's so tied to America's identity to say this is our food and this is who we are. And I think it's a very weird American thing to say, to be like, this is what we do, right?
Sure. Now, admittedly, another Canadian might have more concrete answers for you that they could come up with. I don't know. My friend from Australia, Jeremy, is calling me Winnie the Pooh now.
Jeremy, thank you for being here. It's a little early for you, right?
It would be sometime in the very early afternoon.
Yeah.
I want to say 14, 15 hours ahead, something like that.
Something like that.
Let's see. What else do I have?
I got another one here for you if you want it, Brad.
Sure, hit me.
What is the scariest kids movie?
The scariest kids movie?
It's a movie for kids. Still very scary.
What the hell was that called? Hold on. Let me just...
folks.
I gotta make sure that I get the title right, because the 80s neurons in my brain are trying to fire, but they're not finding the title of that. It was Little Monsters. Okay, Little Monsters
is so creepy, right?
Little Monsters. Like, you try to convince kids that they don't have monsters under their bed, and then they watch Little Monsters. Good luck for the next few weeks.
That's what's so interesting about it. Nick said The Witches. Jeremy says Hocus Pocus.
Sure.
There are movies that were made in the 80s and 90s that are still legitimately scary as an adult to watch. And you're like, how is this a movie for kids?
Right.
The Witches specifically is such a...
It's like serious body horror.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff, like
Cronenberg level.
Yeah, it's super creepy. Yeah.
Yes.
There's all kinds of kids' movies from back then that straight up disturbing in at least some ways. Even something like The Labyrinth, which is not what I would call a scary movie, but some of the visuals are legit fucked up.
There is something about Jennifer Connelly's. She's so innocent, and when you see it, it's the difference between CGI. CGI, it would be kind of hacky, but the fact that it's all these real effects, the fact that Bowie is so otherworldly in the movie.
Yeah. It's not scary, but like it's so off-putting that like you get it in front of a kid, and if they have just a certain mindset, I could definitely see them freaking out about certain parts of it. Yeah,
I'm with both Carrie and Michelle. Neverending Story to me is still an extremely scary movie. My son saw a meme of Atreyu trying to pull the horse out of the mud, and he's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Don't." He's like, "Why is this a meme, Dad?" I was like, "Just don't."
Because it's a horror fantasy movie for kids.
For kids.
Dark Crystal also,
Dark Crystal.
Again, same sort of just like creepy, like visually.
Yes. The way that the puppets move, and that's what's so good about Henson. Henson is such a great way of like moving in a naturalistic sort of way, but then like twisting it just a little to kind of make you uncomfortable that way. Yeah. Oh,
kids' movies are messed up, man.
Yeah. I would also say E.T. E.T. in my opinion is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. I think E.T. and like Spielberg is he's such a good and / bad manipulator that when he made E.T., there is something about the last act of E.T. and all of the science horror that is going on that is, it's just tough. It's still tough to watch.
Yeah, as a kid, I spent several months in the hospital after some major operations. And then the next year, I watched E.T.
Yeah.
I was 7, and I didn't sleep for a while.
Yeah. No.
Kids' movies.
Kids' movies.
Speaking of movies, might as well. If you could be in the world of a movie, what movie would you live in, essentially?
I could be in the world of a movie. What world would I want to live in? Yeah. That is... Now, I'm just in the world. I'm not the main characters, right? I'm just in the world.
You're just in the. You're somewhere, within the world building of the movie.
Oh, golly. I mean, it's so obvious. It's so obvious to me. That's a good one. Yes. Solid.
Future. Not wrong.
No, not wrong. Future would be fun, right?
That'd be weird, but fun. Yeah, that'd be good.
I'd probably either The Tick, or Star Wars, or yeah, probably Star Wars. The Tick or Star Wars. Both of those would be such fun worlds to live in. Star Wars would just be like, all right, well, you're just living your life. You live on Fondor. You're working with the Imperials. You got a shit life.
Occasionally, you hear a story about weird people with magic powers.
Some sort of.
Occasionally, a war breaks out on the skyline.
Yeah, and you're just like,
they'll work it out.
I don't deal with the pyramid ships. I'm into pod racing, and I'm just trying to get to retirement.
What? I think weirdly, I think I might pick Hackers.
Oh, Hackers! Hack the planet!
Because it's so absurdly somehow retro 90s while being from the mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
In a very cartoonish, silly way.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is always fun, and the music is awesome.
Awesome. That soundtrack is phenomenal.
And everyone rollerblades everywhere for some reason.
Hackers has a moment there's a moment in Hackers that reminded me, and walk this line with me. In the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we see where all the Foot Clan hang out, and it's a very cool arcade / skate park. There's pizza everywhere. They're trying to get all these kids from New York. It's very, very appealing, right? It's like, man, I want to join this gang if this is really cool. Hackers takes that scene and says, let's just make that aesthetic the world, right?
Yeah, that's the entire world. At least for these teenagers that are involved. That's how they view the world.
Yes. And there's also something, Brad, about Hackers, about the way that hacking happens.
It's so silly.
The visualization of you're soaring down a server board and you can see all the things. It's so good.
It's Jurassic Park level computing technology. Just weird 3D nonsense everywhere. It's great. And it's got one of the best lines ever.
Hack the planet?
That, I guess, philosophically, fine. But no, when the main bad guy is handed a folder of paper with a bunch of information on whatever the good guys or what, I can't remember even what the folder was, a bunch of nonsense data anyway, in paper form. And he just looks at it and says, ugh, hard copy. Because he just can't stand the idea of physical media. It needs to be digital for him to be happy about it.
I needed this on a readout.
He's physically aggravated by the fact that somebody handed him a folder of paper to complete the task that he wanted. And it makes me so happy because it's so stupid and wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. Hackers, I think that's the answer, buddy. I think Hackers is totally the answer.
And again, the music is it's
so good.
Amazing.
It's so good.
Even someone as musically stupid as I am understands that the soundtrack of Hackers is great.
You got a question for me, or do I? No, it's my turn. Excuse me.
You go for it.
Brad, why didn't they just take the Eagles to Mordor?
Well, it would have been a short story. From a literary perspective, it would have been a weird time to end the story.
Why didn't they just take the Eagles to Mordor? Why didn't they just take the Eagles to Mordor?
I don't know. I can't tell you that. They should have.
They should have, right?
It would have been probably a good idea.
Brad, how do you feel?
Gandalf did yell at them to do that, and they ignored it.
Brett, how do you feel about Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and Hobbit series, the Silmarillion? Do you find any of that interesting? The high fantasy aspect of it all?
I do. I think it's extremely aggressively racist towards hobbits.
Yes, absolutely.
Given that they made all of the rings to control all of the intelligent creatures on Earth. Well, I mean, the hobbits are another thing, but everyone else
they get rings. They get rings,
and the hobbits get nothing because they're apparently not considered an intelligent species,
which is quite unfortunate. Or they're not corruptible. Obviously, perhaps Sauron simply did not believe that they could be corrupted. Right?
That seems very wrong, given that several of them are extremely corrupted. But yeah, I mean, who knows? But yeah, anything like that, man, story issues like there's like just fly. I don't know. I can't explain that because I think it is dumb as well. Yeah.
I think it is. I mean, I think that is you asked me a couple weeks ago, what's a plot hole in a movie that you can't stand? I don't know if that's a plot hole. I think there is an element of we obviously are trying to figure out what's the easiest way to do it. And the whole point of the Lord of the Rings is a stealth mission, right? It's how do we get behind lines, right? Sauron's obviously going to see some eagles coming. That's the reason it's going on. The way that Gandalf goes and brings them back is because shit's going down. That's the only reason the eagles can get there. I love those books, man. And the movies are just fantastic, too.
They are good. Yeah, the books are great. I could have probably done without 3 Hobbit movies. But...
I don't need to see the Hobbit movies. I think Peter Jackson makes some really interesting movies. He makes some very interesting choices as a filmmaker. I would love to see a machete cut of the Hobbit, right? I would love to see the consolidated version of that, just with all of the fat trimmed. Because it should have been one movie. It would have been great as one movie. So, yeah.
Kellen, what was your first computer game?
Oh, Brad.
Or video game, I guess, depending. I don't know if you were into computer games.
Yes, Brad. The first computer game that I ever played was Secret of Monkey Island. And it completely shaped me as a human being. The Secret of Monkey Island is, I play it every single year. It is a great, fun experience. The writing is really fun. A classic LucasArts point-and-click adventure. Soundtrack is great. When they re-released them and they updated the graphics and updated the sound, is really awesome. But I always go back to that retro sort of feel. The puzzles in the game are really perfect. It's as close to as a perfect game as I think there can be because it is so compact and fun, and it's just great. It's really, really great.
I agree.
Yeah,
really. Pretty much all those Monkey Island games are great. Maybe the most recent iteration had some rough spots, I guess, and tried to hit the nostalgia button a few too many times, I think. But yeah, Monkey Island games are great.
They're fantastic.
So many good gags.
So many good gags. And again,
the second biggest conch shell I've ever seen. It's like the size of a whole island.
There are just so many fun bits in that. And again, like you just have to think like, boy, that must have been such a fun game to make, right? They were probably sort of making each other laugh all the time, having such a good time. That game really, it made an imprint. I mean, I know there are better like point and click adventures in terms of the actual mechanics or the puzzles, but the writing of it, the little sort of moments, all the colors. Guybrush as a character is such a fop, right? He's not a hero in any sort of way. They're really good. A lot of those older sort of point and click adventure things were a lot of fun just because, like, from a writer's standpoint, once you write the way to beat the game, you then get to write all of the jokes for when they click on the other things, right? And it's just jokes on jokes on jokes on jokes on jokes because there's not really a way to fail in most of them anyway. There's a couple of exceptions. Yeah. There's no dead end in that game.
I hit a dead end is just another joke that you get to make. So it's all fun. And so playing through, even if you're not getting very much progress, you're still getting just joke after joke after joke, and it's a good time.
After joke. Also, what about for you, Brad? What was your favorite game?
Mine, speaking of the Apple IIe.
Tapper! I've never played Tapper. I know Tapper. I never played it, though.
I didn't play Tapper, but I did play Lode Runner on my Apple IIe.
Lode Runner, great.
Back in the day.
Fantastic.
That was good times, especially when I figured out how to cheat and give infinite lives and things like that. That was a good time as a kid.
Yeah.
It's probably my first hacking. I figured out how to give myself unlimited lives in Lode Runner for no reason.
Yeah, I remember playing Secret of Monkey Island. Playing Secret of Monkey Island, and then somebody told me to play Myst, and I started playing Myst, and I was confused. I was like, "Where are the jokes?"
It's the opposite of Monkey Island.
This is kind of a dry game. I don't know why it's not funny. This is cool, but like, where's the funny in it?
There's got to be some. So, if no one has created a parody Myst game called Myst, spelled Missed, that's just all jokes. Like, if that doesn't exist yet, I'm copywriting that idea currently, and I'm going to do that.
Absolutely, right now, trademark, and that'll be on Itchy.
It would not surprise me if it already exists, but if it doesn't, the makeup, the little thing where you had to prove that you had a real copy of Monkey Island by finding the right. Old copy protection things like that were so silly and fun.
So good.
You got one for me, or you want another one?
Brad, we're gonna go back to the food situation. Brad, can you explain why people think it's an atrocity to put pineapple on a pizza?
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible. It's not. We're finally here, Brad. This is the line in the sand. Here it is. Why is it terrible?
Because you don't need acidic sweetness with your savory pizza.
I completely agree. You absolutely need an acid and a sweetness there to really brighten it up. Why else would you put anything? Brad, come on. Now, I'm imagining you probably had bad pineapple, or people have cooked the pineapple so it becomes really dry and gross.
I have had that, but I have had supposedly really great pineapple on pizza too. They call it a Canadian pizza. So there's a few places around here that make it that people apparently love it.
They say it's good.
But I strongly disagree. And you know what is sort of makes sense, Kellen, and I thought that it might happen that was the question.
Was that the question?
That's the question. And you've answered the question of if this show is going to continue. And the answer is apparently no, because we're no longer friends. We had a good run. We had
8 shows. Boom, boom, boom. Thanks so much.
Just these days, seasons are short. 8 episodes, 10 episodes tops.
It's a BBC series that way. It's all the budgets in making the show more realistic that way. Brad, are you serious? That's the question you were going to ask?
That's the question. I was going to ask you if you like pineapple on your pizza. Do it.
That was my absolute throwaway question too. That's so funny. I guess for me, Brad, it is not a matter where I feel like it is worth fighting over, if nothing else. Brad.
You've got that turned around, Nick. If this show is ending, I'm out. No one needs me just talking about stuff on my own. That doesn't even sound fun to me, let alone other people watching. That would be terrible.
Brad, I think if I can make a case,
you can try.
I don't think it is garbage to put pineapple on pizza. Is there anything else you can put on a pizza you think is worse? To me, I think barbecue on a pizza is pretty gross. Like that to me, I'm like, I don't want barbecue on a pizza. I want pizza, right? If I want to eat barbecue, I want to eat barbecue, right?
I guess to have barbecue on a pizza, I would need to change a lot of the toppings of the pizza. You wouldn't be able to have like just a pepperoni pizza and barbecue.
Yeah, that would be gross.
But like I've had good roast chicken, garlic, barbecue kind of stuff like that. Like certain combinations
Absolutely.
can work, but not something that I would call a normal pizza.
I don't mind a gourmet sort of thing. Actually, Jordan, sauerkraut on the pizza. I've had sauerkraut on the pizza. It actually can be really like there are some very specific things you can put on the pizza, and it's all about how the rest of if it's working. If you put sauerkraut on sort of a white pizza, the sauerkraut, the acid in the sauerkraut, and sort of having more of the Alfredo sauce really work well. But if you put the acid on top of another acid in terms of a tomato base, it's kind of gross that way. So I would say to you, Brad, for the pineapple that way, you have to actually go on the sweeter side of the sauce to match with the sweeter side of the pineapple that way. But I understand if this is the end.
You know what? I'll try to look past it and see, maybe we'll be back. If I can get over it within a week, we'll see.
Brad, how do you feel about pineapple in general? Do you just not like the taste of pineapple?
Yeah, I don't really like pineapple.
Well, so it's not even about the pineapple.
No, it's not.
I don't like pineapple.
I just hate it.
You hate it?
I hate it.
Really? That has to be a Canadian thing. That has to be
Maybe.
Come to America. We'll get you a fresh pineapple. What about even a pineapple in a mixed drink or something, right? Like having a little pineapple that way? No, nothing. Pineapple
nothing.
and rum?
I have not had any variety of pineapple related things that I have enjoyed.
Really?
I would try other things, whatever. I'll try anything just to see, but
okay, great. Nick brings up a good question, Brad. If I take 2 slices of pineapple and I put something in between, is that a sandwich?
Even just on its own, I mean, the outside of a pineapple isn't a carb exactly, but it is very different consistency than the innards. So just a pineapple might be a sandwich.
Is it a sandwich, or is it a pie? These are questions we need to figure out.
Does a pie have to be cooked? Can you have an uncooked pie? Because I mean, you could bake a pineapple or whatever, but is there a thing that you would call a pie that doesn't require cooking? Because you can definitely have a sandwich
that's not cooked.
It's not cooked. I mean, you have to bake the bread presumably or do something for carbs, but the sandwich itself doesn't have to be cooked.
Yes. I don't know. I feel like a pie has to be cooked. I can't think of an example of a pie that isn't cooked though. I don't.
I don't know what that would be. I'm just asking questions here, Kellen. I don't.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. I mean, obviously, you could have sort of a cream pie, right? Just your traditional comical, hey, we're going to take shaving cream and put it in a pie dish and you smash it in someone's face. But that's for comical purposes, not
sure. I mean, you could have a pie with a graham cracker crust or something.
Yeah.
That would still be considered a pie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, those the crust part at some point was cooked.
Absolutely.
So it's not like it's raw pie, whatever that would be. I don't know. That's weird. Cheesecake, things like that. Cheesecake is weird because it's got cake right in the name there.
Cake,
it's awkward. It is usually more like a pie, though, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why cake is right in the name.
Brad, what about you? Cake or pie? Do you have a choice between the two?
Cake, usually.
Cake?
Yeah.
I'm a pie man myself. I'm gonna dig into pie. I like cake. For me, the cheapest store-bought pie is better than the cheapest store-bought cake. I think cake is just so it's a vehicle for frosting, right? And I can just eat a can of frosting, right? I don't need to eat cake. But pie is just so good. So good.
You know what? I would probably just eat pie crust before I eat most kinds of pie. Just the crust.
Just the crust. Would you bake it or you would eat it raw?
I would bake it, yeah.
Okay.
Not that crazy. I don't think.
Maybe it's a Canadian thing, like raw. You know, in America we eat a lot of raw cookie dough.
That I would do too. Cookie dough is good. It's nice they even make cookie dough now that you can eat raw safely. It doesn't have the eggs added in yet.
I have all the eggs in it. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a question for me, Brad?
Sure. Let's see. Which one do I want to pick? Yeah, I don't know why this made me giggle, but we're both millennial-ish age.
Yep.
You know, it depends on how you define that or whatever. There's fuzziness, but we're in there, which a lot of the older generation would consider sort of very lazy, late blooming people that just aren't really going anywhere. So, Kellen, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh boy, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Okay, elderly, and yeah, there's a lot of fuzziness in the definitions, but we're in there somewhere.
What do I want to be when I grow up? Brad, my dream profession, and again, I don't dream of working. My dream would be to spend the rest of my life waking up early in the morning, baking bread, selling that bread while also pulling shots of espresso, by noon being done with my job and being able to just sit and read for the rest of the day, spend time with friends, and that's my life. Like if that was my profession, where I could make bread and make coffee, spend quality time with people I cared about, that's all I need in life. I don't need no Gucci. I don't need no airplanes, anything else like that. Give me a very humble, small existence where I can just do that, and I will be very, very happy. So,
nice. I think I'm with Nick. I want to be a Toys R Us kid.
Yes. Again, Nick, on fire, absolutely on fire. Yes, yeah. Nick, your type 5 is very, very good. Very good.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. Anything that I don't have to do like a lot of actual work for, and I can just relax and find happiness. We talked a little bit last time about sort of finding happiness and how money wasn't really a pathway to happiness, at least after a certain degree. You know, as long as your minimum sort of needs are met, you can find happiness in your own way.
I feel like, again, baking bread is not easy, and baking bread on a semi-industrial sort of level to actually make a profession out of it is certainly not interesting. But that's always been the dream. Like for me, just to be able to say, all right, I get up early anyways. I want to bake bread because it makes me happy. It's sort of alchemical. That's what I like about bread and coffee. It makes me feel like a wizard. Like I'm like, look what I've done. I've taken all these elements and I put them together and I put them in my pot and then I put fire to it and it became gold that way. Right. And the idea of me being able to have like a little shop where I just sell bread and coffee. People come in and they eat bread and we talk and we sip on espresso. Like I understand how romantic that idea is. I understand how impossible that idea is in some semblance of it. It feels very real when I go to Canada. When I was in Montreal, I was like, this could happen in Montreal.
Sure.
It feels very real in like Australia. When I was in Hong Kong, I was like, oh, I could open up a bread shop and sell coffee in Hong Kong and make myself so happy. But it feels very, very difficult in the United States because I feel like we're so like coffee is not coffee is a utility, right? Coffee is just to get you there as opposed to the act of sipping on it. And the same thing with bread. Nobody just sits and eats bread and enjoys it. It is like it's a vehicle for something else to get them on their way that way. So yeah.
Feel you.
But again, Brad, maybe you and I, we have a business later on in life where you're trading stocks in the back and I make you coffee and we got lightsaber duels in the afternoon, something like that. Who knows?
I like it. Yeah, this is a terrible idea, Jeremy. That's not happening. I don't see any money in me being a YouTuber.
No, I mean,
but I do see a lot of fun in being a
That's,
YouTuber.
and that's what YouTube is about. It's about having fun. If we take take us 15 years ago, Brad, we put this show 15 years ago. You and I are the Green Brothers, and we have book deals, and we're doing everything. But today, not happening.
No, not very likely, and that's okay. That sounds a lot of stress in its own way, so I'll pass on that.
Yeah.
But a Brad, Toys R Us kid.
Toys R Us kid, fantastic.
I mean, they're not around anymore, so that's tricky, but
very, very tricky. There are a lot of Toys R Us still here in the Chicagoland area, but that's just because the bankruptcy law is taking so long, and you can still go there, and like there are employees who are like trying to stock shelves with like a few boxes of Legos and weird, Doc Mustafa toys, but they're still open. It's very strange. They haven't turned into, like Halloween stores yet. So
any minute now, they'll all be Spirit Halloween stores.
Exactly. Brad, here's my question for you. Might be my last question of the evening for you. Do you enjoy cheese?
I do enjoy cheese, yeah.
Do you enjoy cheese? What do you think is the best kind of cheese?
The best kind of cheese. That's a very contextual thing. There might be different.
For you, what is your favorite type of
just
cheese?
My favorite overall favorite cheese.
Yeah. It's tough, right?
It is
tough, right?
It's tough. Like I want to say something like queso, but that's not exactly cheese. It's like it's cheese-ish.
Yeah, it's cheese.
It's cheese sauce. Thing.
Or a thick chowder.
Chowder. Like maybe like a pepper jack.
Oh yeah, pepper jack's nice. Pepper jack's
nice. Thing.
It's tough. It's like picking your favorite family member, right?
Tricky. It's going to depend on the situation that is before. Sometimes it might even be American cheese. Great for things like grilled cheese and stuff like that. Where I wouldn't necessarily maybe use a pepper jack.
The interesting thing about an American cheese, though, is it's not really a cheese.
That's true. It's probably closer to queso. It's an amalgamation of cheese into its own version of cheese.
Yeah.
But it is tasty.
Cheese is absolutely amazing. When I think about if I had to have one thing for the rest of my life, it would probably be cheese. I understand that I'm very lucky that way. Cheese is it works very well with my system. It doesn't work well for everyone else's systems.
Nick is just trying to just be all over these comments. Gonna have to hire Nick as a joke writer at some point.
It's fantastic.
Smoked Gouda, Jordan. That's a good one.
Smoked cheese. Oh my gosh. A smoked Gouda is just
never mind. Nick is fired. That's not. You tried too hard. You flew too close to the sun, Nick.
And your wings of cheese melted.
Your wings of cheese melted away.
What about a blue cheese?
Do
you like a stinky, really meaty sort of cheese that way, Brad?
I'm not really a blue cheese kind of person very much. I mean, I get into a mood. I'll eat it, and it can be good, but it's not high on my list generally.
I love cheese. Cheese is delicious.
I do love me some cheese. Any kind of cheese that I can turn into fondue.
Oh yeah. My gosh,
is a good thing.
Like a baked brie with some garlic and just up. Yeah. Ooh, so good. Have that with a nice red. Just that's all I need.
It's good stuff. Cheese is great. Now I'm hungry.
Oh, I'm hungry too.
Why have you done this?
I'm very sorry. Again, I wrote these questions before I had eaten, and so I think that's why there's so many food questions.
Fair. Let's see. What do we got? We got 10 minutes left. Kellen, what's the weirdest dream that you've had? That I guess that you're willing to say semi-publicly.
I've got one.
To the 6 people currently watching.
Yes. So Brad, when I was very young, I had some really, really very, very intense nightmares, and I started going to a therapist, and they sort of taught me how to do lucid dreaming. And I remember a dream I had as a child that has stuck with me because it is so visually striking. Okay. I wake up in a field of golden wheat, and it is a beautiful blue sunny day. I emerge from the wheat, and I'm looking around, and there's a big oak tree, and then there is an old barn up on a hill, and the wood is sort of decrepit and almost sort of like so suntanned that it's gone from the traditional sort of wooden color to almost looking gray. And I start walking up the hill, and I can hear that there's someone singing in the actual barn. And as I get closer, the barn doors open, and an enormous spider walks out wearing a Denver Nuggets basketball hat.
Okay.
And it comes towards me, and its eyes, its ginormous sort of eyes, and its fangs kind of looking at me, its hair sort of that way. And it walks up to me right up in my face and it says, "Do you want a haircut?" And I wake up.
Wow. That is weird.
It was the first dream it's so burned into my mind because of the imagery and all the things that were going on. It was absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Nice.
I also remember watching a lot of the Beetlejuice cartoon show as a kid.
Sure.
And having dreams kind of set in that world of like Lydia and Beetlejuice like living in this very strange Tim Burton world where like lots of raised platforms and crazy things. And I remember my father was a limo driver, and my mom and my father had a divorce, and my mom was marrying Lex Luthor. Very
complicated.
Very complicated situation. Yes.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's a very good one.
Lucid dreaming is fun. I've been doing that for a while.
Very, very fun. And again, for me today, I will have a dream and I'll be like, fuck this. I am out of here. I know exactly how to get out of a dream if I'm not enjoying it. I know if I'm in a dream and I'm enjoying it, I know exactly what not to do. I was like, great, don't talk. Don't do this. Don't look in a mirror. Don't try and write anything down. Don't try and eat anything. I have all these rules for myself to say if I start doing this, I will start losing control. The more control I have in the dream, the better it's going to be.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Mine is probably from when I was a kid, living in a tiny, tiny town of 500 people, and I'm pretty sure that included most of the livestock in the number. There was like 12 houses in the whole town. So I don't know how they got to 500. But it was essentially, I had the Red Dawn dream. People parachuting down, except it wasn't people. It was the letters from a can of alphabet soup, but people-sized. And many of the weapons were also alphabet soup, like noodly. But for some reason, it was still scary as hell. While I was in the dream, as soon as I woke up, I was like, "That's going on." It was funny as hell. But in the dream, it was one of the scariest things I was ever experiencing because, like, literally, my town was getting invaded by giant soup characters, and I was freaking out, and I didn't know what was going on. I just ran around the town on my little bike, and there was just alphabets like parachuting down, and it was horrifying. And then I woke up, and I could not stop laughing.
That is an amazing dream. I can't. I'm struggling to not start crying, laughing at the imagery of that dream.
It was so funny. But in the moment, while I was in the dream, I remember very vividly being scared out of my mind.
Yeah,
because I just wasn't processing things clearly. Obviously, it was fun time.
Yeah. Brad, this has been. I hope that next week we get to talk because I have I have a thing I want to do with you next week, and I'll tease it a little bit. If you want to meet next week. Want to meet next week if you want to meet somebody who enjoys pineapple. And again, I also understand, Brad, you're a mutant, right? You're a cyborg and a mutant. I know that you're a mutant.
I mean, not technically a cyborg, but
Almost.
Close.
But I also know that you're a mutant. I know that there is a certain green plant that people enjoy putting on certain types of Mexican food. We'll call it cilantro, that you think tastes like soap.
I do, yes. That's just a physical genetic situation more than a preference, but yes, I am part of that group.
That's what makes you a mutant. You're the next evolution of humankind that way. I want to talk to you next week a little bit about the way we as elder millennials and the way as we as post 9/11 people communicate via the medium of memes. We're going to talk a little bit about memes next week. I've got some memes that I want to show you, and really,
I'm familiar with the concept a little bit. Sure.
Yes,
I've been known to shitpost now and then.
Absolutely, you are an excellent memer. Right? You do some very good memes. You're an excellent magnet for memes, and I want to talk to you a little bit about memes in terms of we're gonna be doing a little bit of theory in memes and talking about the deeper meaning, as well as what makes a good meme and what makes a bad meme. So,
sure, okay.
What do you think? You think it's worth coming back?
You know what? I'll come back for that. Sure.
Okay. Good.
Talk memes.
Good, Brad.
Sounds good. Or maybe I'll come back and I'll just put a meme in place of my video, and you'll just have to deal with it. I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
We'll find out. Brad, this is, as always, just such fun talking with you. I've laughed. I've been a little appalled. I've had some very real emotions. I've been turned on, not by anything you've said, but just in general. Nick, I want to say thank you to Nick, our guest star.
Nick has been on fire.
Until
he flew a little too close to the sun there, but mostly it's just been just glorious.
So good. Yeah. Do I
even? Yeah. This has been great. And I'll see you next week, probably.
I'll absolutely see you next week, Brad. If I don't see you before then, and for the people who are there, who are still here, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. This show is for Brad and I. Anybody who sticks around afterwards, after the first 5 minutes,
there are 6 people currently watching this. It's crazy. You're all crazy. You should have better things to do at this.
You have much better things.
Anyway, this has been very, very fun. As always, see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Whatever. Hit the things. Do the YouTube things. Whatever. You know how it works.
Next week, hey, you should see my friends Brad and Kellen talk about stuff. And they'll say, what do you mean talk about stuff?
What are you talking about? That sounds stupid. I'm not doing that. That's what you're going to lose friends if you try to drag them in. But still, do it anyway.
You try.
See you next week.
Bye.